What's up, everybody? Aaron Nagler here with your Packers Daily Chat, coming to you live on Cheesehead TV, where we are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. And hello from Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Packers back at practice after a day off, practice number 8. A very, very truncated affair, a little over an hour. Packers in half pads, shoulder pads, nothing on the bottom but shorts, helmets, and crisp, clean work today. A lot of running from drill to drill, a lot of individualized work, a little bit of the competitive stuff we've seen throughout camp. The defense certainly won the day today. Matt LaFleur afterwards saying that he had them down winning, I believe, 10 out of 11 competitive downs at the end of practice. Defense clearly ahead of the offense still. A lot of individual stuff to talk about. I'm sure, hello to everybody in the chat. Lots of great questions already. I think probably, unfortunately, the headline coming out of today is the news about Kevin King. He showed up not wearing any pads. Word filtered through later that he is dealing with a hamstring injury. When we talked to LaFleur after practice, he said they would know more in a few days. That never is a good sign. Hopefully, maybe he just needs a little bit of rest, but oftentimes, if it is just a precaution, if they feel tightness like Aaron Jones has been, the coach will say so. In this regard, he said they will know more in a few days, which would indicate they've got to do some more testing, again, which is never good. But because of that, Tony Brown was on the field a lot more today with the ones. He certainly mixing it up, throwing himself out there against some of the top flight competition. They're going to need guys like that to step up, especially with Josh Jackson still not participating with his foot injury. Good morning. Good morning, Melanie and Sean. Happy Sunday. I keep forgetting it's Sunday. When you get in the middle of camp, you just lose track of days. It's crazy. Cut King and Crosby. Gaga, don't be silly. Crosby was back out there today, actually. He had the pads on. They didn't do any field goal kicking, but he is back. LaFleur said he has been doing some kicking on his own. He expects him to pick right up when they do start drill work tomorrow. Krimerow's making the team for sure. I don't know if I'd say for sure, but he is certainly making a case and going to make it very, very difficult for them to cut him. Not only is he doing great work day in and day out from scrimmage, but he's starting to pop up on special teams units with the first team. That would be an indication that they are definitely looking at him seriously for making the squad. He's got to continue to produce, got to make it happen in the preseason games. Clearly, Aaron Rodgers loves the guy. We'll see what it looks like here down in the next couple weeks. What in the world is wrong with Josh Jackson, Alex? We don't know anything outside of it's a foot injury, and he is on the non-football injury list, which means he hurt it by himself away from the team prior to the start of camp. Next, how was your hangover yesterday? I actually didn't have one. I was pretty fine. I was up before Corey. I'll say that. Man, he is always hurt. Tim, I think you're echoing the sentiment of a lot of Packers fans when it comes to Kevin King. Certainly frustrating, probably no more so than it is for Kevin, but at some point, you got to be able to count on a guy. And right now, the Packers certainly can't put their eggs in that basket. You're going to see a lot of guys get opportunities because of this, though. First up, like I mentioned, Tony Brown. You got to think Kadar Holman will see more snaps. Maybe they push Tremont outside again, outside of that nickel role. We'll see how Pettine adjusts, but it certainly is frustrating. There's no question there. How has Fackrell looked? Dan, he's looked solid. He's looked exactly picking up right where he left off last year. It's interesting because he doesn't get as many opportunities because he is running with the 2s and 3s because they went out and really overhauled that position. But every time he is in there, especially when he's going against the 1s, he's looked solid. He's looked much like he did last year. I don't think he's ever going to be your top flight guy, but he's certainly valuable depth, and he's a contributor on special teams, which always helps your case. Cut Crosby. Why do you want to cut Crosby? I don't understand. Have you people watched Ficken? I mean, yeah, he hit that 63-yarder, and it was very exciting, but, you're going to want to cut Crosby because he's inconsistent. Ficken's 10 times more inconsistent. I don't understand. I don't understand you people. How has Raven Green looked? Dan, very good. I didn't expect him to look as good as he's looked so far early on in camp. They've played him both out of kind of necessity in that deep role because Savage was coming along so slowly. But now Savage has been working back with the ones. He was working in team drills today, which means Green is playing some more of that linebacker / safety hybrid role, that nickel safety role. He and Josh Jones have been kind of splitting. I want to say splitting time. Green's probably playing more than he is. But yeah, Green has looked very good, very solid. And speaking of Josh Jones, he had a very good day today. He had a number of really eye-catching plays. One in particular where he dropped down right at the last second and came screaming off the edge on a blitz. Definitely would have decapitated DeShone Kizer if it had been live. You saw a couple of those where he really flashed his athleticism in Mike Pettine's scheme. And that's what you need. And that's one of the reasons you have to think Brian Gutekunst wanted to keep him around instead of trading him. What do we got here, people? Possibly already asked. Any news on Jamal or Aaron Jones? Merck, only news is that they're still out. Jamal and Aaron both sat on the sidelines today without pads, not participating. At some point, you do start to wonder, when should we start to get concerned? With Jones, it's pretty similar to last year, right? He missed a good chunk of camp with a hamstring issue. With Jamal, it's a little bit more of a question mark. He's been out longer, obviously, and there has been no word yet as to when he might return. But because of their absence, you're getting looks at guys like Tra Carson. He went with the ones today. Dexter Williams is getting extensive looks. So, that's in and of itself is a good thing. But you would like to see those guys back on the field sooner rather than later. Maybe that happens tomorrow when the Texans come to town. If Drummond flipped outside, who would take over the slot? It's a great question, Dan. I couldn't give you a definitive answer. We'd have to see who Pettine would roll in there. Maybe they put Holman in there. He has done some work on the inside, but we'd have to see who he felt comfortable with. Hey, Aaron, where can I buy a ticket? I'll tell you what, Patrick. If you're looking for Packers tickets, either home games, away games, preseason games, postseason games, if they're lucky enough to get there, check out Ticket King. You can find them at cheeseheadtv.com. They're actually physically located right over there. But if you're not in Green Bay, don't worry about it. Just go to cheeseheadtv.com. They can take care of all your Packers tickets needs. And for a very limited time, if you use the code PACK2019, that's capital P, PACK 2019, you can get 10% off your order, but it's only for a very limited time. So hurry up and get to cheeseheadtv.com and check out Ticket King. How's the secondary look so far? Very, very good, very, very talented, and very, very sticky. You can see they are a very good man-covered group. And what's interesting to me is most of the completions that you've seen downfield, not all of them, but a lot of them, especially today, came after what would have been a sack. Obviously, in training camp, you're not allowed to hit the quarterback. They're not allowed to take these guys to the ground. They have to pull up. But there were numerous times today where the defensive front was getting after the quarterback, and that said quarterback, whether it was Rodgers, Boyle, Kizer, whoever, would have been on the ground and not throwing balls down deep because the man coverage is so good. So when it comes to zone, I think there's still a lot of work to be done there. But as strict as man corners, when they get man calls, this is a really good group. Let's see, what else? Do you think the Packers will keep 2 or 3 quarterbacks this year? Will Kizer still be number 2? Alex, I would say that's a $1 million question, but it really is no question. If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, they're screwed again. I've seen absolutely nothing at this point early on in camp to suggest that the Packers could, keep the ship afloat, so to speak, with any of these guys at quarterback. Again, maybe eventually the scheme helps them out. Maybe it helps Kizer. I do think Kizer will end up being the number 2 kind of by default. There's certainly no one beating him out right now. But it's going to be hard to watch if he has to play any extensive time. Let's see what we got. Shut up about cutting Crosby. I didn't bring up cutting Crosby. The chat did. How's Kiki doing? Very well, Tyler. Very promising. He hasn't got a lot of run with the ones yet. But in one-on-ones and in reps with the 2s and 3s, you don't get a ton of those. You don't get a ton of reps when you're with those groups. But he's looked very, very solid. I'd be very interested to see when they start kicking him up and bringing him in on maybe third down situations, some specialized packages where he gets to get in there. But when you're running, people yelling at me. When you're running with Za'Darius kicking inside, what we saw today, Rashan Gary had a great play on an Aaron Rodgers throw on a zone drop from the A gap. And then you've got Preston Smith. You've got all these moving parts that they're utilizing up there. It's hard to find a spot for the young kid until maybe an injury happens. And, of course, you don't wish that on anybody. You got Montravius Adams, who's had a really good start to camp as far as when it comes to his quick get-off off the line of scrimmage. He's been really quick. I still think, he's not quite as powerful as you'd like him to be, but he's going to cause some havoc. So hopefully Kiki gets acclimated, so to speak, and gets a little bit more run. Maybe as preseason goes on, probably as the season goes on, but he's looked very solid. Who will the Packers beat the Lions this season? David, that's an excellent question. Who knows? What has it been? 2 years since they've done it? Lord, it's embarrassing. Where's all the kid noise coming from? Well, training camp's going on right over there. And I think there's some children playing a couple houses down. So it's a festive time here in Green Bay. It's training camp. As Corey says, it's the best time of the year. No one's lost anything. No one's, taken a sack. No one's thrown the ball away unnecessarily. We're all just enjoying Packers football. It's a great time. And I highly recommend coming down for a training camp practice. They're a lot of fun. And with the Texans in town the next 2 days, it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see what we got. What's it like watching LaFleur in practice versus Mike McCarthy? Alex, I'll tell you, it feels much more, how to describe it? It's much more of a lab almost. There's a lot going on all the time, and they're always tinkering, always teaching, and they're all, running from drill to drill. The music, the vibe is up. It's exciting. With Mike, it felt like more of a slog, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. And LaFleur's kept practices very short. I mean, today was a little over an hour. That would never have happened under McCarthy, especially coming off of family night. He would have worked them. But, they got the Texans coming in. They're going to do, LaFleur said they're going to have probably a little over 2 hours tomorrow and probably the next day. So try to dial it back today. The rule of 3 he talked about. He said 3 hard days in a row, guys are susceptible to injury. So he's trying to keep that to a minimum, which meant they went light today. Let's see. Za'Darius Smith. Yeah, Za'Darius was all over the place. He is absolutely wrecking things. Let me tell you, there is not a play yet where, he may get blocked, but he is making the offense adjust to what he's doing. He is a dictator. He is dictating terms along the line. And yes, that includes with one David Bakhtiari. He's a imposing figure who is going to be a lot of fun to watch Mike Pettin utilize all over the place. They had a look today where they were working on third downs, and the defense absolutely owned the offense. And a lot of that was due to Pettin moving these guys around. And one of the things he likes to do is bring everybody mugged up into the A gap. He had Za'Darius, he had Blake, and then he had Gary and Montravius. And you didn't know who's coming, who's dropping. Gary ended up dropping in his zone. Za'Darius shot the A gap. Rodgers tried to find Devontae on a deep in, and Gary almost had an interception. He batted it down, but I don't think Rodgers ever saw him. And those are the kind of things, you don't know who's coming, you don't know who's going. Za'Darius can wreck any kind of blocking scheme along the interior. They had to utilize 2 guys to take him. It's just fun to watch. Za'Darius is the real deal, and I'm not ready to say he's going to be Julius Peppers. Certainly not going to say he's Reggie White, but he is the thing that is going to stir the drink on defense. There is little doubt in that regard. Did King get put on IR or something? I missed it. No, he's not on IR. He has a hamstring injury. LaFleur said a couple days they'll have a better idea of how severe it is, which, of course, does not bode well. But no, he is not on IR. He is injured, though. Do you think Rodgers is declining, or was that just due to injuries? Woo, boy. I think he's getting older. There's no doubt there. He's got to adjust his game a little bit, and I think this scheme will help him do so. Declining? It's hard for me to say, especially coming off a year where he was running around on one leg. The year prior to that, he was in the MVP conversation before he broke his collarbone. So, yeah, it's hard for me to say, he's declining. Let's see him work in this offense a little bit before we start talking about the demise of Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this year. A lot of people seem to be down on him outside, which is fine. I'm sure that's how he likes it. But, I haven't seen much to say he's on the decline, so to speak. I mean, his game's a little different. It has to be. He's a little older. But he's still lethal. Who's your camp darling so far? Oh, definitely. Definitely Tony Brown. I mean, I hyped him up all offseason, and he's making me look smart down in and down out during camp. Vitale's making me look stupid because I thought they would move on from Vitale, and he has continued to make plays. He made another fantastic catch up the seam today for a big gain from Rodgers. All he does is make plays. But Tony Brown, he has been exactly what I thought he'd be. And it's great to watch him out there. Like Rodgers said last week, he's the most talkative guy. He's certainly talking junk day in, day out, play in and play out, and I love to see it. You love the attitude. You put him and Alexander together, and you're really making a lot of noise. Do you think the Packers will try to get a backup QB when cuts come this year? It's a possibility. If Gutekunst really likes someone, I don't doubt they would take a look. I don't know who that would be. But yeah, that's always a distinct possibility. I would tend to think it would have to be someone with a history in this scheme and or a history with LaFleur in particular. But I would never rule it out. Let's just put it that way, because goodness knows they could use some help at the position. Do you think Gary can have a Clay Matthews type impact in his rookie year? It seems like a tall order. I don't think he'll be on the field enough, at least early on, to do that. But we'll see, who knows? You never know. You get out there under the lights, turns it on, and maybe he has a couple sacks in a game, and away we go. But I don't think, and it's fine, because I think they went out and got Preston and Za'Darius Smith. He doesn't have to play right away, like a lot. They can use him as a rotational guy and let him get his feet under him, and as the season goes on, he can play more and more and more. That's kind of how I think it'll play out. But I tell you what, he is going to contribute a bit more early on than I probably thought, because he's just too much of an athlete. The upside is way too high for you to keep him on the sideline for much longer. The wreckage potential is definitely there. Given how much penetration there has been along the line, should the Packers be worried about the offensive line? No. The thing to remember when you're watching practice and you're watching Family Night and things like that, all of this is scripted. There are certain things that they are working on, and none of these reps are really live. And as David Bakhtiari talked to Corey and I about yesterday when we recorded the latest Nagler's Never Right, which, if you haven't heard it, please go to the Patreon, sign up, and listen to our conversation with David, because he was fantastic. But he mentioned, there are plays where they talk within the line. Like, okay, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be working on this. Okay, I'm going to work that. I'll let you do this. Okay, you do that, and let's, blah, 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 blah. So it's not like a game. It's not like when you're watching on Sunday and somebody, quote, beats somebody. Now, obviously, in one-on-ones, certain drill work, that does happen, and you certainly do see that on practice, in practices. But there's so much that we're not privy to that it's hard to say one way or the other who's winning, who's losing, who's coming out ahead more often than not. They've done drill work in the run game where it's looked like the offensive line has played really, really well. But now, is that because that's the design of the drill? I don't know. We'll see. But no, there's no reason to worry about any of that yet. It's far, far too early. Now, the Texans get in here and start roughing them up, then maybe we can talk. Can't wait until we practice with the Texans. That'll be really fun and informative. Joseph, I couldn't agree more. They're ready. They're ready to start hitting some other people. And the Texans are a really good football team, a lot of talent on that team. And I think the Packers, it's going to be a bit of a measuring stick. And obviously it doesn't mean much in the sense of how this team is going to look in 2019. But it is good to kind of go against somebody else, get some competitive periods with guys who aren't on your team, and really see what you've got depth-wise, talent-wise, et cetera, in comparison to one of the better teams. I mean, it's a playoff team they're going against. Savage was full go today. Yes, Jordan. Savage was out there with the ones, mixing it up. Not only in walkthroughs, but in competitive periods. He and Amos are manning that back end for the Packers defense, just like Brian Gutekunst drew it up in the offseason. So it looks like he's, getting that whole, we're going to ease him in. Well, that was last week, and now he's been eased in, and he's off to the races. And we're here hoping it stays that way. Is Clowney coming? Matt, I don't think so. He hasn't, as of last night anyway, I know he hadn't signed his tender yet, his franchise tag tender. So I would think he will be a no-show unless he signs it today and gets on the plane. Now, that said, I know J.J. Watt was on the PUP, I think, but I can't remember for sure, but I think he has come off of that, so he should be at least in attendance. I don't know how much work he'll do, but he'll be out here riding bikes, doing the whole training camp vibe, so that'll be really exciting. Do Pettine and Pagano have similar defenses since they both coached under Rex Ryan in Baltimore? Ryan, that's an excellent question. They're both rooted in the same principles, no question. I think Mike Pettine is a lot more multiple. Pagano's a bit more. Now, he's still got, some exotics, and as everybody in Rex's tree does, but Mike is definitely a lot more aggressive in that regard and a lot more complicated and asks a lot more of the quarterback as far as trying to figure out what's going on and sorting protections and things like that. But the root principles that they're coming out of are very similar, yeah. The 3-4 from Rex, which really obviously goes back to Buddy back in the day. Does Bulaga have any kind of juice left? Yes, absolutely. He was given a Veterans Day off today, but look, this is something we talked about yesterday. I understand that people get frustrated with players' injuries, but because they're injured or have been injured in the past doesn't mean that their talent is gone. When Bulaga is on the field, just go and watch the last month of the season last year. Bulaga was as good as he's ever been against some really good fronts. And like I said, I know it's frustrating that he does miss time every season, but when he is on the field, he's got to be in the top 10 right tackles in the league. He's one of the better ones in the game. So, yeah, I'm all for the veteran rest if it means that we can keep Bulaga out there more often than not. I'll take one or two more here. Do they cut Tremont? Oh, don't let Corey hear that. Oh, my goodness. I doubt it, but never say never. If some of these younger guys come on, maybe it's a possibility. I doubt it, especially because Josh Jackson's missed the entirety of camp so far. If Jackson had been in camp from the get-go, balling out and looking great, along with Tony Brown, along with Holman, and these young guys who have kind of shown out, then maybe they make that move. But with Jackson being completely MIA, it's hard for me to see them turning around and going, okay, we're going to cut our most experienced corner and just throw it all to the youth. I just have a hard time imagining that's the play. But, again, you never know. You never know. Is Burks improving? Yes and no. I think he looks much better, smoother as an athlete, diagnosing things. He's quicker sideline to sideline. But, man, he's still an issue in the run game. Bigger guys getting up on him, not being able to shed a block, etc. That's not who he is. I don't think that's ever who he's going to be. And I know a lot was talked about this offseason about him needing to improve in that regard. We'll see when things get live. Maybe all of a sudden the switch gets flipped. But that's so rare that you see that in the NFL. I tend to think he is who he is, a really fast, shifty guy who can make plays, certainly, but he's never going to be a thumper in the middle there for the defense. Let's see. How do you see our new coach overall? It's really interesting because I've liked the vibe of camp, and I do wonder about the lack of hitting, the lack of tackling, specific tackling work, and how short practices have been. I mean, they were a little over an hour today. That's pretty unheard of around here anyway for the last decade or so. It's a very different way of working. They do a lot of stuff in the classroom. They get up on their feet at the end of the day in a walkthrough. So it's not like they're not getting work done. But as far as on-the-field work, it's been a lot less than we're used to at Packers camp. Now, again, new methods, new ideologies, new way of moving, new way of putting it all together. We'll see. It's his camp. It's his team. We'll see how it works and if he learns from the good stuff, the bad stuff, etc., takes it all in. So far, his players seem to think that that's what he's doing. He's listening and incorporating suggestions regardless of where they're coming from. If he thinks it's a good idea, he's going to utilize it. You want a coach that's going to listen, and certainly that's what he's been doing early on here in Packers camp. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. We do get so many of them because there are so many Packers fans around the world that want to talk some Packers. The Packers are practicing. You can't get here to Green Bay. We want to bring you as close as possible. Oh, and somebody throwing a top chat, a little super chat at us. What do we got here? I mean, I'm always going to answer a super chat. Maybe. Corey, can you read what it says? Because my phone is hating life. Sorry, guys. Well, there it is. Kevin. Thank you, Nagler. Go Pack Go. Kevin, thank you, buddy. Thanks so much for the super chat. Yeah, we just want to be here for you guys. We want to be on the ground, boots on the ground, ready to tell you everything that's going on. Because, look, Corey and I, this is how we started, right? Packers fans that couldn't be in Green Bay. So we know what it's like. So we want to bring you as close to the action as the NFL will allow us. Thank you so much. Make sure you like or subscribe our YouTube channel. Share us on Facebook with your friends and family. Retweet us, because that's all the rage, right? That's what the kids do. And then please, if you like what we do, please support our Patreon. Like I said, the newest Naglers Never Right just dropped yesterday. Pretty lengthy conversation with David Bakhtiari. He talked about a ton of stuff. He's a great guy. Spent a ton of time with us yesterday. Check that out. Patreon.com/CheeseheadTV. $5 a month supports everything we do. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night.